Senator Ticer's former aide, Lauren Smith Ridgway, her mom, Kathy Smith, and also Seal Garrett, an important leader in Alexandria. Now, it's hard to truly capture the charm, grace, and elegance of Patsy Ticer, and people called her Patsy in her 30 years in elected office. Back home, she was not mayor, she was not senator, it was never about titles, and everyone knew Patsy. One of the last times I got to spend time with Senator Ticer, I went to lunch in Old Town with her, and we were stopped on the street at least 4 times walking over, and Patsy wanted to talk and visit with everyone and hear what they had to say. She had that commitment, a commitment to interact with everyone she met. Whether you were a friend, a colleague, a lobbyist, a custodian, a big donor, or a stranger, Patsy didn't ask whether you lived in her district or not. She would draw people in. You were always the only person in the room. And when I was a delegate, I got to accompany Senator Ticer on an exchange trip to Turkey. We were joined by the senator from Northern Fairfax, former Senator Whipple, former Senator Watkins, and others. And we had so much that we learned. We met with cabinet ministers, a mayor in Istanbul, a newspaper editor. They were all interesting to Patsy. And when I looked at pictures from that trip recently, I came across a picture of her in a school, sitting among some Turkish school children. And obviously Patsy didn't speak Turkish. They didn't speak English, they're pretty young. And she didn't have the translator sitting next to her. But she lit up, her smile was just wide as it could be. And early on, I learned that her engagement extended not only to people, but to their pets as well. When Patsy was first running, I escorted her door to door in Arlington. She took a copious amount of time with you if you had a pet present. And she engaged not only with you, but with the animal as well. Her charm was without parallel. As a freshman in the House, Patsy, of course, had been in the Senate for a while, and we introduced the same bill. My version was skewered before I knew what hit me. And Patsy's version, after it passed the Senate, came over to the House, and with grace, her ever-present Sweetbriar water bottle, a twinkle in her eye, and the very same bill, and her soothing presence, her version, of course, passed committee and the full House unanimously. And Senator's ability to engage with people made her a success in Alexandria, in the Senate, and throughout her life. And she used that engagement. She used it to advance the causes she held most dear, protecting the natural beauty of this Commonwealth, the welfare of animals, and most of all, the opportunity for all children to get ahead in life. We and all Virginia are better off for her service. Could the clerk please read the resolution?
Senate Resolution Number 5, celebrating the life of the Honorable Patricia Keyser Smith Ticer. Whereas the Honorable Patricia Keyser Smith Ticer, a dedicated public servant who broke barriers as the first woman mayor of Alexandria and represented the residents of the 30th District in the Senate of Virginia, died on August 7, 2017. And whereas born Patricia Keyser Smith in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 1935, Patricia Patsy Ticer grew up in Alexandria. She graduated from George Washington High School in 1951 and earned a bachelor's degree in political science from Sweetbriar College in 1955. And whereas Patsy Ticer enjoyed a career as a real estate agent and served the community through civic groups, parent-teacher associations, and local charitable organizations, including Alexandria Hospital, she also helped form the Alexandria Commission for the Arts. And whereas in 1956, Patsy Ticer married Alexandria City Council member Jack Ticer, who later urged her to run for the Alexandria City Council. And whereas Patsy Ticer began her service as a public official when she was elected to the Alexandria City Council in 1982 for the first of 3 terms, in which she made early childhood development, education, and affordable housing her priorities. And whereas Patsy Ticer was selected by her colleagues to serve as vice mayor in 1984, and she chaired the Northern Virginia Planning District Commission from 1985 to 1987. And whereas upon succeeding the Honorable James P. Moran, Jr., following his election to the United States House of Representatives in 1990, Patsy Ticer became Alexandria's first woman mayor. And whereas Patsy Ticer's service to Alexandria included sponsoring the first extensive revision of the Alexandria Master Plan in 1992, establishing an Alexandria Office of Early Childhood Programs, creating Alexandria's Early Childhood Development Commission, and at the state level, serving as vice chair of the Governor's Council on Child Daycare and Early Childhood Programs. And whereas Patsy Ticer chaired the Board of Directors of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments in 1994 and was awarded the Elizabeth and David Skull Metropolitan Public Service Award, the organization's highest honor, in 1996. And whereas Patsy Ticer served as chair of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission, as well as chair of the National Capital Region Transportation Planning Board, and whereas Patsy Ticer served 2 terms as Alexandria's chair of the United Way campaign and president of the National Association of Regional Councils of United Way, and whereas desirous to be of further service to the Commonwealth, Patsy Ticer ran for and was elected to the Senate of Virginia in 1995, as she introduced and supported many important pieces of legislation to benefit all Virginians. Whereas, as chair of the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources, Senator Ticer's priorities included improving the health of the Chesapeake Bay watershed, conserving open space and trees, and supporting the Virginia Land Conservation Foundation, which she served as a trustee. And whereas among Senator Ticer's proudest legislative accomplishments were the passage of laws requiring newborns to be tested for congenital adrenal hyperplasia, a developmental disorder that can result in the death of the newborn, medium change acyl-CoA dehydrogenase deficiency, another birth disorder that can be crippling or fatal if not caught immediately, as well as a law requiring hearing tests for all newborns. And whereas after 16 years of service in the Senate of Virginia, Patsy Ticer did not seek re-election in 2011. She remained active in civic affairs, working with the Northern Virginia Conservation Trust to preserve the historic pre-revolutionary Mary Dick Fawcett House, one of Alexandria's earliest residences. And whereas Patsy Ticer's career in public service was characterized by passionate advocacy for the health, education, and welfare of children, the protection of animals, and the preservation of Virginia's natural beauty, and whereas as a trailblazing example for women in local and state governments, Patsy Ticer was renowned for her steadfast support of the rights of women and girls. She actively encouraged women to seek leadership roles in public life, and her legacy will endure through the many women she inspired to serve their communities. And whereas Patsy Ticer was regarded as a consensus builder, both on the Alexandria City Council and in the Senate of Virginia, power, she once said, is being able to get things done without having to raise your voice. And whereas preceded in death by her husband of 51 years, Jack, Patsy Ticer is fondly remembered and greatly missed by 4 children, Margaret Jankowski of Alexandria, John Ticer Jr. of Vienna, Catherine Ticer of San Jose, California, and Virginia Batchelor of Alexandria, and 5 grandchildren. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Senate of Virginia hereby note with great sadness the loss of the Honorable Patricia Kaiser Smith Ticer, the first woman mayor of Alexandria, former state senator, and respected public servant. And be it resolved further that the clerk of the Senate prepare a copy of this resolution for presentation to the family of the Honorable Patricia Kaiser Smith Ticer as an expression of the Senate of Virginia's respect for her memory.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. While the family is escorted to the dais, I would ask the Senate to please join me in offering the Ticer family a warm welcome of the Senate.
Okay.
on behalf of the Senate, we're certainly sorry for your loss. We miss Patsy. She was such a tremendous public servant, as you know, to the Commonwealth of Virginia, and we were just able to hear all the great things once again that she was able to do. And so we appreciate you all spending some time to be with us today. I came into the Senate in 2008, not knowing a whole lot of what was going on, and there were people like Patsy Ticer that reached out to folks like me who were freshmen and really took us under her wing and taught us the ropes and showed us how to be good senators, and I'll never forget. And we talk about gentlemen and gentle ladies. Patsy was truly a gentle lady, and we miss her. I thank you all so much for sharing time with us. I might also add, just as an aside, your father, Jack Ticer, and my father were roommates at the University of Virginia back in the days, and my father speaks so highly of your father, and so I know that you miss both of them. But please thank you for being with us today, and please know that we all miss Patsy Ticer. Please join me in offering another round of applause for the Ticer family. The Senate will come to order. If okay, Senator from James City County, I'm going to make a couple comments here, and then we'll get back to business. But I will start by saying there comes a time in everybody's career when they need to step out onto the stage and take one final bow, and that time has come for me today. So hold your applause for just a little bit. But I do want to start by saying that the Clerk of the Senate, Susan Char, who I consider a dear friend not only to myself but to all of us, were reminiscing last night. And Frank, just compose yourself here because I know you're hearing some of this. But hard to believe that I came in with some of you 10 years ago last night. And just tremendous memories. It's been a tremendous experience. And I want to just commend Susan and her staff. This is one of the most efficient and effective places that I have ever worked, and I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of you. But Susan, thank you so much for your friendship, and to your staff, thanks for all that you do for the Commonwealth of Virginia. Let's give Susan and her staff a round of applause. I teach and speak to a lot of students and residents, and I have been around a lot of successful people in my years. And what I always hear and what I always try to just emphasize to people is that at the end of the day, when we have all climbed that mountain or whatever we've done, it is our family and it's our friends that are the most important to us. And I truly and sincerely consider all 40 of you in here as my friends, and yes, even you, Senator Stanley. And I will miss those relationships, but I want to continue to be friends with you because you do wonderful work for the Commonwealth of Virginia. And sometimes we get wrapped up in the business of the day, but we always need to remember why we're here, and that is to help Virginians across this great Commonwealth. And as you all know, I'm a proud Virginian, and I do truly believe that we live in the best Commonwealth and the best country in the world. So thank you all for the experience. And I just wanted to end, Senator Norman, I hope you noticed that I did wear my pink tie today out of respect for the majority leader. I even had to flag him down on the street this morning to remind him. But I think that some of you, and as I look over to my right, were working on a portrait that could be hung here on the Senate floor. And I heard rumors that there was actually some painting going on in Franklin County. And so I just wanted to let you know, Senator, that I'm sorry I disappointed you. But there will be no picture of Ralph Northam on the floor of the Senate. And I will move just down the hall and up a floor. But I look forward to having an open door. And I'll either come and visit you and keep my eye on some of you more than others, or you please come visit me. But I really do. It's a tremendous honor and a privilege to have served in the Senate for 6 years, and then as your lieutenant governor, and now for the next 4 years as the 73rd governor. So we look forward to getting some great things done in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Thank you all so much, and God bless all of you. Thank you. Senator from James City County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Before I yield to the senior senator from Fairfax for some introductory remarks that will be followed by some comments that I will make, I know that each and every one of us in this body of 40 would like to share some comments and reflections on your role as the President of the Senate and Lieutenant Governor, but consistent with Mr. President's modesty and request, he is asked that we restrict the reflections and comments to Senator Sasslaw and myself. So with that, I would yield to the senior senator from Fairfax.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Senator Norman. Mr. President, members of the Senate. By the way, before I start, speaking of pictures on the floor, I knew that guy down there at the end there. As you commented earlier, you first got here 10 years ago in 2008. And I met you once, I think, during the campaign, but when you got here, given your resume and everything, I expected, I told people you're going to hear a lot from him, and we ought to expect some great things, and you haven't let us down. And to some of the newer senators, the reason that you can't smoke in restaurants, he got the cigarette ban in restaurants through the General Assembly when it had failed on numerous occasions. And his bills as a state senator reflected his concern for the health and well-being of the people, not just in his Senate district, but the entire state. And he never took his eyes off that. And from the time he got out of VMI, he went to medical school. He was a doctor treating people in the first Gulf War. There are a lot of people who've given testimonials down in his region how they didn't have any money, but he helped their children. He fixed a lot of their problems so they could have a decent life. I mean, he's just a super person, not just from a political standpoint, but just as a human being. And we're going to miss you. You've done, as Lieutenant Governor and presiding officer here, you've done a magnificent job. I really mean that, Ralph, from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure I speak for everybody in here. There's just no finer human being than you, and your whole life has been about making everybody else's life better, and you can't top that. And I want to wish you the best because certainly you deserve it, and you've given other people the opportunity to have the best. And we wish you a next very successful 4 years.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, I have been waiting for this day for 4 years.
I'm sure of it.
I almost felt a complete failure because I was unable to convince you to become a Republican. But I did convince you to wear a pink tie, and that is an enormous success of which I'm very proud of. As a matter of fact, this morning as I was walking down to the Richmond Convention Center, this black SUV rolled by me and the window rolled down, and this guy takes his tie and holds it out the window as he drives by me on it. There have been times where perhaps I have been a little firm with the president as he has presided from the dais up there. But I would say to you all that he and I have more common interest than might seem at first reflection. As a native son of the Eastern Shore, when I was first elected, I had the privilege of representing the Eastern Shore of Virginia for 10 years and learned a great deal as they come here about their culture and their family values, and had great respect for his dad as I met him early on in my career over there. I would further say that he and I share a common educational background which is almost undescribable and beyond the belief of many in this room as we both toiled and enjoyed, and at least he excelled at Virginia's Military Institute, where he was the president of the Honor Court, which frankly, there is no higher compliment that can be paid to a cadet at the Virginia Military Institute. We have a certain bond at VMI that transcends any political issues and usually any personal issues. And that's why if you see a letter that goes from one VMI alumni to another, generally, rather than saying sincerely, it says yours in bonds. And that is because we do feel a special bond that is never broken. I would say on a personal level, and I certainly don't mean to embarrass Mr. President, but his friendship and the compassion and the professional concern that Senator Saslaw just spoke about touched my family twice. Both of my grandchildren had some fairly serious issues that required intervention at CHKD. And on both occasions, Mr. President interceded on their behalf that ultimately led into addressing and taking care of those medical challenges. And for that, I remain enormously appreciative. So I would say at VMI, we have this thing called the parapet, and it's an inscription on the parapet, and Mr. President embodies everything that inscription starts out with, and it says, pressing up the hill of science with noble emulation, a gratifying spectacle. And you have been and demonstrated noble emulation and a gratifying spectacle to the Commonwealth of Virginia. And as I said in front of 902 members of the Virginia Chamber of Commerce just a few weeks ago, I look forward to working with you collaboratively and moving this Commonwealth forward as you usher in a new atmosphere and a new administration in the executive branch of governor. And God bless you.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, as we were reflecting on what would be an appropriate, tangible reflection for your years presiding over the Senate, we decided to present you with a chair, and I commented to Madam Clerk, we ought to use that one that is behind you because it has never been sat in the 4 years that you have been here. So I know. No, we would not give you Senator Saslaw's chair, believe me. But on behalf of the entire Senate of Virginia, as a memento and a reflection that I'm certain that you will not need, Senator Saslaw and I, on behalf of our 38 colleagues, are very pleased to present you with a chair that is welcoming the warmth of your posterior for the first time in 4 years. So feel very comfortable in sitting down on that, Mr. President.
Thank you so much. And again, thanks to all of you. And I look forward to our continued relationship. And without further ado, I really appreciate all of the kind words, Senator Saslaw and Senator Norman. And again, thank you so much. It's been a tremendous honor. And without further ado, I want to turn this over to our President Pro Temp, Steve Newman. And I know you all, Senator Steve Newman, you all will be in wonderful shape. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for the honor. Very kind of you. Thank you.
I'm going to turn this off and just turn it back on when you get started.
Returning to House Joint Resolution 127, being procedural in nature, the resolution will be taken up for immediate consideration. The clerk will report the resolution.
House Joint Resolution number 127, establishing an inaugural committee.
The chair recognizes the senator from James City, Senator Norman.
Mr. President, I would respectfully request that the resolution be agreed to, sir.
The question is, shall the resolution be agreed to? As many are in favor of the resolution will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to. I would like to announce that the following have been named pursuant to House Joint Resolution 127 to serve as the inaugural committee on the part of the Senate. Myself, as Senate Pro Tem, Richard L. Saslaw, Janet D. Howe, L. Louise Lucas, Thomas K. Normant Jr., Emmett W. Hanger Jr., John S. Edwards, Frank M. Ruff Jr., Frank W. Wagner, R. Cree Deeds, Mark D. Obenchain, Mamie E. Locke, Ryan T. McDougall, J. Chapman Peterson, George L. Barker, Richard H. Stewart. With that, the Senate will return to the morning hour. The senator from Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Good morning, Mr. President. I rise for two introductions. Well, now that we have total control with you up there, why don't we just kind of do something fun? I rise for the purpose of two introductions, Mr. President. Mr. President, members of the Senate gallery, my first introduction is someone who I treasure and value her great advice and her talents very much. Dr. Leanna Blevins is the executive director of the New College Institute of Virginia, located in Martinsville, Virginia, which I have the honor of being the chairman of the board there. She succeeded someone that we all knew and loved, Senator William Wampler, who was the executive director before her. And she's sitting there with us today, Mr. President, and I am urged by my seatmate to read the following disclaimer. That Dr. Leanna Blevins is another great mind from Chilhowie, Virginia, leading the Commonwealth like my seatmate, the senator from Grayson. So with that, Mr. President, I'd ask that you extend to her the warm welcome of the Senate.
We welcome our friends from Patrick County today. Would you please rise and receive...
Mr. President, that's Dr. Blevins first.
Welcome. We appreciate you being here. Thank you, sir. We will receive the warm welcome to the Senate. Thank you for coming. Senator for Franklin, Senator Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. President. My second introduction is a group of dedicated citizens from Patrick County who came all the way from there on a very important mission. We had a bill heard in your committee, Mr. President, today that is critical to Patrick County. And so they got up at 2:30 in the morning and headed east towards Richmond, landing here early this morning, advocating for the passage of a bill. We had a hospital, a rural hospital, which is closed, not because of anything that the hospital did, but because of the management of the parent company that owned it at the time. We're trying to make sure that we get that rural hospital up and running again. The hospital itself was created by citizens who came together and chipped in a piece of their paycheck every week so that it could be there for the citizens of Patrick County both now and in the future. And these citizens have come to make sure that that legacy continues. So, Mr. President, I would ask that we extend the warm welcome of the Senate to Crystal Harris, Board of Supervisors member who's been on there, I think, 5 terms, so she is a very patient woman right there. Debbie Foley, our Director of Economic Development of Patrick County. Jane Falk, a new member of the Board of Supervisors. Jerry Hazelwood, the Assistant County Supervisor. And Tom Rose, our County Administrator. Mr. President, these are fine Virginians, great Americans, and great citizens from Patrick County, and I ask that you extend to them the warm welcome of the Senate.
Senator, thank you. Would Crystal Harris, Debbie Foley, Jane Falk, and Jerry Hazelwood please stand? We appreciate you coming. We appreciate you coming today. As a guy that was born in the Stewart Hospital, I appreciate the fight that you and the good senator are doing. Thank you very much. If you would continue standing and receive the warm welcome of the Senate. The junior senator from Virginia Beach, Senator D. Staff.
Mr. President, I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
Senator has the floor.
In the gallery today, we have visitors from my district who are also currently working in my office during session. We have Reed Howard, who is a recent graduate of Georgetown University. Yes, they graduate Republicans. And Tyler Windsor, who's a first year at the University of Virginia and the current president of the SCA.
If Reed Howard and the group from Virginia Beach would stand, thank you for coming today. We appreciate you attending, and you would continue standing and receive the warm welcome to the Senate. The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for two introductions, even though you only have one green sheet, and an announcement, if I could.
Yes, you have. The senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I hope you extend a warm welcome to the liberal women of Chesterfield County who are here today in the gallery. The liberal women of Chesterfield County are dedicated to encouraging citizens to become more active in their community and active in their government. They're here handing out flowers to every single one of you, which you should have received. And they're asking you to support my resolution, Senate Resolution number 4, which is the Equal Rights Amendment, which we're hoping will be ratified this session, as this body has done several times. They think it's a perfect bipartisan issue to bridge the current gap in our politics. Nevada just ratified it last year, which only leaves 2 states in the United States who haven't done it yet. So there's other legislatures that are ratifying it, and they were hoping we will this session. That's why they're here. I hope you enjoy the flowers.
Would the liberal women from Chesterfield County please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Senate? Senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. And for my second introduction, Mr. President and ladies and gentlemen, we have here in the gallery one of my constituents, Dan Marrow, who's here. I ran into Dan, actually I ran into Dan's wife knocking doors in my first election for the Senate back in 2015 off Possum Point Road. His wife was not a big fan of voting for me at first. But later on, Dan and Patty Marrow discovered that the coal ash pond, which was directly next to their home, had polluted their ground well, and that their well was polluted with lead, hexavalent chromium, and other chemicals, and they've become very active in the effort to try and do something about the coal ash problem, which is not just a problem in my district, but around the entire state. And Dan's here today, and Mr. President, I would hope you give Dan Marrow the warm welcome of the Senate.
Dan Marrow, rise and receive the warm welcome of the Senate. Welcome, sir. The senator from Eastern Fairfax, Senator Surville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have one quick announcement. If you may have seen on the calendar today, there's a commending resolution for a retiring federal judge, Judge Gerald Bruce Lee. I thought those of you who are attorneys may wish to sign off on that before we pass it. I have the form here. If you'd like, please come and sign it before we're done today. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Senator. The senator from Mecklenburg, Senator Ruff.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise for an introduction. I ask you to give a warm welcome to the Senate for the minister who gave our invocation today, the Reverend Stephen McNally, who serves the Church of the Transfiguration in Fincastle.
Thank you, Senator. And would Stephen McNally of the Church of the Transformation please rise from Fincastle? Pastor, welcome. Thank you for joining us. You are in my district, and it's great to have you here. Would the senators rise, and would the senators please give the pastor a warm welcome to the Senate? Are there any other items to come for the morning hour? Resolutions, petitions, and bills are now in order. If you have a bill to introduce, if you'd please rise. No? Okay. Very good. Senator Peake, do you have a bill, sir?
No, he wants to speak.
Okay.
Mr. President, I rise for the purpose of an introduction.
The senator has the floor.
May it please the President. I have two constituents here today that have not been introduced. Two of my favorite constituents. I am not their favorite senator, but they are my constituents. I think we should recognize Mr. Roy Newman and his wife, Miss Newman, who happen to be parents of President Pro Tem of the Senate. And I thank them for being here today. Thank you for your continued support, early support. I don't know that I will ever become number one, but I think we should welcome them to the Senate today.
Thank you, Senator Peake. If my father and mother and wife would please rise and receive the warm welcome of the Senate. Thank you. Is there any other business for the morning hour? The clerk will call the calendar.
Senate calendar for Thursday, January 11, 2018. Memorial resolutions.
Senator from James City, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would respectfully move that all the memorial resolutions on pages 1 and 2 of the calendar, including Senate Joint Resolution number 18 through Senate Resolution number 2, be agreed to in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolution with the understanding that any senator who may desire to remove a memorial resolution from the block will please do so after the clerk has read the title of that resolution.
The question is, shall the memorial resolutions on page 1 through page 2, that is SJR 18 through SJR 2 on the calendar, be considered in the block in the usual manner, waiving the reading of the resolutions thereof, with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the title of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in a block. The clerk will read the titles of the memorial resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolution 18, celebrating the life of Nathan Watts. Senate Joint Resolution 22, celebrating the life of Olmo Shannon Randall, Jr. Senate Joint Resolution 23, celebrating the life of Arville Buford Welcher. Senate Resolution 1, celebrating the life of the Honorable Faye Dolores Watford Mitchell. Senate Resolution 2, celebrating the life of Wilson M. Good.
The resolutions will be agreed to in the usual manner. All those in favor of agreeing to the memorial resolutions will please rise.
Commending resolutions.
Senator from James City, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would respectfully move that all of the commending resolutions on page 2 of the calendar, which would include Senate Joint Resolution 10 through Senate Resolution number 4, be agreed to in the block by voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolution with the understanding that any senator who may desire to remove a resolution from the block will please do so after the clerk has read the number of that resolution.
Yes, sir. The question is, shall the commending resolutions on page 2, that is SJR 10 through SR 4 of the calendar, be considered in a block by a voice vote, waiving the reading of the resolutions with the understanding that any senator desiring a resolution removed from the block will do so after the clerk has read the numbers of the resolution. All in favor of the motion will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The resolutions are before us in the block. The clerk will read the numbers of the resolutions.
Senate Joint Resolutions 10, 15.
Mr. President.
Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to move that Senate Joint Resolution 15 and 16 be taken out of the block and go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 15 and 16 will go by for the day.
Thank you.
Senate Joint Resolutions 17, 20, 24.
Mr. President.
The junior senator from Richmond, Senator McClellan, will.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate Joint Resolution 20 be taken out of the block and by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Joint Resolution 20 will be out of the block and by for the day.
24, Senate Resolutions 3, 4.
Mr. President.
The senator from Fairfax City.
Move that Senate Resolutions 3 and 4 come out of the block and go by for the day.
Without objection, Senate Resolutions 3 and 4 will come out of the block and go by for the day. Are there any other items? The question is, shall the resolutions still in the block be agreed to? All in favor of agreeing to the resolutions will say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The resolutions are agreed to. Senator from James City, Senator Norman.
Thank you, Mr. President. You're doing a peachy job, and I'm very proud of you. Inquiry of the clerk. Does that complete today's calendar?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so adjournment. Is there any other business to come before the Senate?
Mr. President.
Yes, Senator from Rockingham, Senator Obenchain.
Mr. President, rise for an announcement. The Courts Committee will meet briefly here at my desk immediately following session for certification of judicial nominees.
Thank you. Any other business to come before the Senate? Yeah, Senator from Stafford, Senator Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I may, a quick announcement and a quick point of personal privilege. We do have an agriculture meeting half an hour after session, and I know folks have another event they'd like to attend, but we've got a full docket, so if y'all can get there as quickly as possible, we'd appreciate it. And, Mr. President, I want to remind everybody tonight that it's the 47th annual Legislative Appreciation Banquet by the Virginia Agribusiness Council. It's the largest industry in Virginia. Between the farming and forestry and other matters, it's always a fantastic event. We hope that everybody's going to attend. It's over at the Richmond Raceway Complex. I think they have cocktails at 5:30, and then a dinner and a program starts at 7. So hopefully everybody will attend, and we're all looking forward to seeing you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Any other item come before the Senate? The clerk will report any announcements on her desk.
Today, Thursday, January 11th, the Committee for Courts of Justice will meet immediately upon adjournment at the chair's desk to certify judges. The Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Natural Resources will meet 1/2 hour after adjournment, Senate Committee Room in the Pocahontas Building. The Finance Subcommittee on Education will meet at 3 p.m., Subcommittee Room number 1 on the 5th floor of Pocahontas. Senators Norman, Newman, Howell, Saslaw, Hanger, Ruff, Donovan, and Stewart. Tomorrow, Friday, January 12th, the Committee on Rehabilitation and Social Services will meet at 8:30 a.m. in the Senate Committee Room in the Pocahontas Building. The Republican Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 2. The Democratic Caucus will meet 1/2 hour before session in Senate Room 1.
The Senator from Hanover, Senator McDougal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn to reconvene tomorrow, Friday, January 12th at 11 a.m.
The question is, shall the Senate adjourn until 11 a.m. tomorrow? All in favor of the motion will say aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The motion is agreed to. The Senate stands adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow.